One of my favorite games of this year was Doom Eternal, and this was building off of the first Doom 2016. And for today's critical thought, I want to talk about that game along with the upcoming indie game Ultra Kill. Kind of change the philosophy of first person shooter and just action game design in general with their idea of push forward philosophy. One of the high marks of Doom 2016 was his kind of rediscovery of old school first person shooters, and namely in the aggressiveness of the game. This was not a cover shooter, it was not designed to keep the player feeling passive. You had to keep moving, you had to keep shooting, you had to keep the aggression on. And in a GDC talk that I'll put a link to in the description down below, the developers of Doom talked about this idea of push forward design or push forward philosophy. And what this meant in a way was designing Doom around this ever-present focus on the core gameplay loop, which, as you can tell by the screenshot or the footage of Doom Eternal, constant aggression. And you are trying to just keep this aggression going, and anything that gets in the way of that should be mitigated or removed outright. So, the need to have weapon inventory or limited weapon space, reloading, and of course the idea of being able to heal. And this is one of those major points that it sounds so simple today, having played Doom and Doom Eternal, but when we think about these kinds of games back then, or back in 2016, you didn't play a first-person shooter that essentially allows you to recover your health through combat. You have to hide behind a wall. You have to go find some miscellaneous first aid kit, or a chicken leg, or a ham, whatever, and that got your health back. And by adhering to this design, it, in a way, brought action gameplay into a first-person shooter. And it's one of the things that I love about this kind of push-forward mentality, and why it should be adopted into other games and designs. So, the first thing, as you're watching the footage up there, the player, or in this case me, we are kind of always in the core gameplay. We shouldn't stop playing this game. And it sounds, again, like a lot of this discussion sounds very simple. And oftentimes, the most complicated aspects that make a game work can look very simple thanks to iteration and evolving those elements. But it took a lot of work to get both Dooms to the point where the player is not only an active participant in the combat, but they are kept in that gameplay. And this is an issue that we see from other first-person shooters, action games, that deal with this idea of hoarding consumable items. That you're always in the back of your mind thinking about the future. Okay, I can't use my rocket launcher now. What if there's a cyber demon in the next room? I can't use a healing potion during this boss fight. Maybe there's an even bossier fight that will be 10 hours down the line, and then that healing potion will save me, as I'm sure anyone who's played an RPG has ever thought of. And this kind of hoarding mentality, it gets in the way of the core gameplay, because it's taking the player out of the now. And because of that, it tends to rob these games of a lot of the enjoyment and just the interactivity. Because you can't use your best toys, because you always have to think about what's coming down the line. And many games have done this. If you've watched speedrunners, for instance, play action-heavy games or resource-heavy games, they know what items to hoard. Then they'll just turn it loose on a difficult or annoying boss fight. That guy dies immediately. And that's because these games are trained and designed around that. With Doom and Doom Eternal, I have a limited amount of resources, yes, but I can recover them very easily when I see fit. Whether that's getting armor from your flame belch, the killing image of the chainsaw for ammo, glory kills for health, and it's just this constant cycle. And developers in the GDC talk mentioned how they designed the game that the heavier the enemy or the more aggressive or threatening the enemy was going to give you more loot or more resources for killing them. Because they wanted the player to always be in control. And this kind of design, and they use this term, they use this phrase in the video, that they wanted to feel like you are controlling, I think it was like an F-20 Ferrari. And that's how they want this gameplay to be. So by removing those aspects that we come to know about first-person shooter design, again, resource management, resource hoarding, they freed up the game to make more interesting decisions. And we saw this evolution especially in Doom Eternal. Like I said in my review, Doom Eternal is very much the Dark Souls of first-person shooters, and that's not a case of hyperbole or baiting the oracle or clickbaiting it. It is a game that you're not supposed to turn your brain off. Because they remove these considerations that kind of stop the action or stop the flow, it keeps you or it keeps the player engaged 100% of the time. So as you're watching me run around and killing enemies in that footage over there, I have to know at a moment's notice, what am I engaging right now? It's not a case of stand 50 feet back, shoot rocket launcher for 20 minutes. No, if you do that in Doom Eternal, you're going to get killed. For one thing, you're going to run out of ammo very quickly. And they said this in the piece, or in the video, and I said this as well in my written and video reviews, that Doom Eternal and Doom 2016 are games that reward you for playing it how the developers intended. And it sounds, I think, to some people as a negative. This was again kind of what Dark Souls tried to get away from with the idea of multiple builds and the lack of a class-based system for its RPG design. But it's still very much a game that wants you to play by its own rules. When you play Dark Souls, you can't just run around, mashing the attack button. Convert or instantly in Doom Eternal, I can't just run around shotgunning everything and expect to win. As you can see, I'm now ripping and tearing things in the corner there. Hopefully this won't get too many DMods on YouTube, we'll see. But Doom and Doom Eternals, with its push-forward design, it brought a layer of action gameplay to the first-person shooter genre, and in the same mold, it got rid of some of the more fiddlier aspects of the design so that you can focus more on this core gameplay. And as we've talked about many times over, playability, onboarding, user experience, these aspects are king when it comes to great games. And they're not often what players think about. Like we said, with Doom Eternal in the corner there, and Doom 2016, most people playing that game didn't stop to think to themselves, the glory kill system allows me to just kill enemies and be rewarded for it and get rid of reloading. No, they're thinking about, oh my god, I just ripped this imp in half, or I just stabbed a cacodemon, or I ripped their eyeball out. And how cool is that? And like we said, it's this kind of stuff that's just very fascinating to go over when it comes to game design. Now, we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, I want to talk about Ultra Kill, and how this seems to be like Doom Eternal 2.0 in a sense. And now for a quick shout out to our current Game Wisdom supporters and sponsors. Going forward, all Patreon supporters will get early access to our videos. And if you'd like to continue this discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, linked down below. If you're looking for more wisdom about game design, be sure to check out my latest offering of books, 20 Essential Games to Study, aimed for first-time developers and students looking for some inspiration for their upcoming games, and Game Design Deep Dive Platformers if you're interested in anything regarding 2D and 3D platforming design. They're both available in print, digital, and wherever books are being sold. When we talk about this idea of push forward design that was embodied by Doom, we're seeing very similar structure to that with Ultra Kill, as you can see here. And if you missed my first look at it, there should be a link to that in the description down below. But Ultra Kill is an indie game that is going for that same kind of high speed, very sustainable play focus that we saw Doom go for. In this one, even though I'm dying very quickly, I am playing this on what is considered the hardest difficulty at the moment. That all guns have infinite ammo. There is a fire rate, and sometimes the shotgun needs to kind of reload on its own. But the game is designed around you having all the tools you need in order to keep fighting. So if you saw right there, as I was shooting the guy's hand that was above me, whenever you were close to an enemy and you do damage to it, you regain health that way. And this is kind of what we've been discussing when it comes to this kind of sustained play or push forward design. That there should never be anything that the player is permanently limited on. And what that means is I shouldn't use something that I can't get back or recover. And this is a major turn compared to what we saw from a lot of action and RPG based games in the past, where unless I can actually go to a shop, or there may just literally be a limited number of these items in the game, that's the only ways I'm going to be able, or the only way I will be able to recover them. But with Ultra Kill here, as well as with Doom and Doom Eternal, the developers looked at what are the main resource drivers of this game, as well as the core gameplay loop, and how do I keep the player always in it? And that is easier said than done. The reason why that is so difficult is that there's always that push and pull between how hard or how much of a challenge do you want the player to have. If the player just recovers all their health infinitely, well, then it's not going to be that interesting to play a game, unless you make that into like a cheat mode or something along those lines. But with Doom and Ultra Kill, the challenge is to figure out a way to give the player infinity, but still have that be limited. There has to be some kind of constraint to that. Otherwise, it's just a cheat code. And what I like about this design, as I said in the first part, is that it allows the developer to kind of free up some of the mental process of playing these games. Typically, with a lot of consumable-based games, the player has to devote some of their energy and strategy to preserving those resources. In Ultra Kill and Doom, it becomes more strategic. It's about, okay, I know that I have ammo for all my weapons. Everything is possible to use. So let's make these enemies more challenging. Let's make the game more interesting by not having to worry about that resource. And the boss fights in Ultra Kill are certainly an example of that. The Act 1 boss is just literally you fighting Virgil from Devil May Cry 3. And there's no way you could do expansive boss fights like that if the player couldn't have access to the full range of their tools. And that's what push forward design allows you to do, and allows the developer to do as well. That I don't have to worry that, oh no, I didn't save my special railgun ammo for this boss, I'm going to die. And it's a more creative use. And speaking about the railgun, in Ultra Kill, the rail cannon doesn't have a quote-unquote reload time. Instead, it reloads whenever you are not using it, or it charges up. So it still has that constraint, but it's a short-term constraint, as opposed to saying, this will only hold 2 rounds of ammo, and there may be only 10 rounds of it in the entire act. And for those of you watching this, my question for you, can you think of other examples, or even, not even like real examples, can you think of other ways you can use push-forward design to create that sense of having an infinite supply, but still being constrained by the rules and systems of the game. To wrap things up, as I said before, I love Doom, Doom Eternal, and Ultra Kill here. And one of the main reasons for that is that they don't play like traditional first-person shooters. As you can see, as I'm jumping, parrying, wall jumping, sliding, shooting, all in the span of, 5 seconds there. And you can't do this kind of design in a traditional FPS. Especially if you have limited health, limited ammo, it just doesn't work like that. And by being able to change how you handle resource management, and even just the flow of gameplay, it opens up the genre to a different kind of feel to it, and expand these mechanics. I've said this before, but one of my dream ideas is essentially Dark Souls as a first-person shooter. And originally, I thought something like Remnant from the Ashes would be the basic for there, the basic. But with Doom Eternal and Ultra Kill, I feel like the Push 4 design works better in this aspect. That I can go hog wild on any fight, but I still have resources to manage. It's just that it's focusing on the short term or the now, as opposed to screwing me, 20 minutes, 50 minutes, 5 hours later, and so on. And I think that is a major avenue for developers to go. With that said, thank you so much for watching this video. If you're new, be sure to check out the Discord and Patreon link down below, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where examine the art and science of games. Until next time, take care. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoy things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel link down below, where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.